Welcome to KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio and the Southern California Business Report with Yvette Walker, a show dedicated to highlighting successful Southern California businesses and the people behind them.
Welcome and thank you for joining Southern California Business Report on ABC News and Talks, KMET 1490 AM, 98.1 FM, and KMET TV. I'm Yvette Walker, live blasting our signal from the center of Southern California, serving a population of over 25 million. Get us crystal clear and on demand by downloading the free live streaming app on Google Play and the Apple App Store. As always, a huge shout out to the team, Mitch, Bill, and Sean. I love you guys. And to our special advisory committee that can be found at www.scbrtalk.com/advisory committee. Okay, everybody, today I have the privilege to introduce Mayor Paul Leon, a native of Southern California. Paul is a graduate of Nordhoff High School in Ojai, the U.S. Army Security Agency Training Center and School at Fort Devens, Massachusetts, attended Cleveland Institute of Electronics and Next Dimension Bible College, where he was awarded a Doctorate of Divinity. Since completing military service in 1977, Paul has been a resident of Ontario. His professional life included 3.5 years in the U.S. Army, 15 years in the trucking industry, 5 years on the staff of Bilingual Family Counseling Service Incorporated, and 5 years as the outreach director for the Focus West county-wide collaboration. Dedicated to the betterment of youth in his home region, Paul has contributed thousands of volunteer hours to area organizations, including the Ontario Salvation Army, San Bernardino Communities Against Drugs, San Bernardino County Gangs and Drugs Task Force, Ontario Gangs and Drugs Task Force, Chaffee Joint Union High School District Cat Council, Family Solutions Collaborative, Vernon Middle School, and the West Valley Family Violence Council. He also served as the coordinator for the highly successful Christian Okoye Focus West Youth Football Camps, the annual Focus West Positive Alternatives Youth Formal, and Red Ribbon Week Elementary School Assemblies.
Man,
Thank you so much.
Can we end that? I mean, that is so long. It either shows that there's a lot of accomplishments, or that I'm really old, and the color of my beard is starting to reveal that I'm just old. So all of that stuff is so much to talk about, to say, but it covers a span of about 40 years, and
Yes.
that's why there's so much there. I mean, going all the way back to the Army, that's 40 years ago.
Yeah,
50. That's 50 years ago. That's what's really funny. That's 50 years ago.
Wow.
So,
Well, that just speaks to the amount of experience and dedication that you have invested in our community, and why you're probably the longest serving Ontario member in the history of Ontario. Tell us how long you've been serving as mayor of Ontario.
I had to get out my calculator. Actually, for me, it would be an advocate. Something more like just a pen and paper. I started with the city council in 1998, and then I was elected mayor in early 2005, and I've been on ever since. It's been a long run, and so I've been mayor since 2005. You do the math; that's about 18 plus years at this point, and it makes it really makes an argument for, if you ask me, no term limits. The term limits were set because people wanted to get rid of bad elected officials. This whole idea of getting in a new idea, or people with newer ideas, it's not really 100% accurate. They just want to get rid of you so they can have a chance. Somebody else can have a chance. And I understand that. When you look at the higher levels of government, like Senate, U.S. Senate, U.S. Congress, even state level. Actually, we have term limits at the state level, but they're like 12 and 16 years. You really don't have a chance to, if you're not in the right point of time in your lifetime, you can't crack one of those agencies. So if term limits would be nice, but at the local level, experience and institutional knowledge, if you will, is important in keeping the direction going and making it good for business people at the local level. I'm talking about, because if somebody comes to invest in the city of Ontario, and then we have a turnover every 4 to 8 years, then those investments, which really are billions of dollars, they can't make that, because the next group could possibly overturn everything they've invested in. So for the development and the planning of a city, I don't believe in term limits. I think it's best if you have the right people at the right time working together to move the city forward in the same direction. So it doesn't take changes in direction. And all you have to do is look around you at some of the cities that do employ term limits, and you can see that without the continuity, they don't get very far.
Right. And I love the analogy that we discussed recently about having somebody new versus having somebody with actual working knowledge and experience. And not only that, but applying and realizing positive public policy that are benefiting, the community, or that is benefiting the community. Please talk again about what inspired you to pursue public service as mayor. Politics is tough, especially on a local level, and it takes a lot of drive and love for your community to be doing it now almost 20 years.
A lot of people think that you have to go to school or go to college and get a degree in economics or public policy or these kinds of things. And the reality is most politicians from top to bottom or bottom to top don't have much of an education in that at all. Usually it's just ego driven. And I really wasn't looking for it at all. I was already doing a lot of work. All of the things that you mentioned that was happening, 40 years to 25 years ago, those were the things that I was doing. And those were the things that were always in the paper. And I was always named as the guy running it, which is also not fair, because there were so many people on board that it's easy to look good when you're the top of an organization that does a lot of good. And all of the other people who are really carrying it are not recognized in print. But all of the things that I was doing, the bilingual family counseling, the West End, Focus West stuff, and all of these things that were community oriented, I was always the one ending up in the newspaper about it. We had a lot of successes in changing the dynamics of the way people perceived Ontario, especially in the 1980s, when they saw Ontario as a declining and gang-riddled city, especially in our downtown. So to do things to combat that and to counter that and to change the direction of the city at the community level was really my honor to do. I like doing that, and so when there was a vacancy on the city council, there were a lot of people who had applied, but I met the mayor who created the vacancy. Gary Ovitt got elected mayor, created a vacancy, and he said, I'd like somebody who's been doing things rather than somebody who says, when I get in, I want to do things. So that's why he basically grabbed me out of the community. I wasn't looking to do that, and set me in the seat. And here's another thing, Yvette. It takes years to figure out what your role is as a city council member. And I always say you have to be careful of people who think they get elected to royalty, because they do. They get elected, and then they think they can run around pushing their weight around and telling everybody, I'm this special person. I got elected, so you need to give me free food or free work or free this, or respect me and let me in. I get the best seat. I get that never even entered my mind when I took the role of city council member. I just wanted to know what it was that we do. None of that stuff even occurred to me. Since I've been on, though, I see that everywhere. And it doesn't matter if it's at the dog catcher level. If somebody gets elected to something, even in a homeowners association, all of a sudden their king or queen, and they got elected to royalty. And I always do my best to throw water on that and remind people the only reason you're there is that people elected you because they believed in you, that you would do the right thing on their behalf. And in our country, we have a constitutional, a representative constitutional government where you're elected to represent people, not yourself. And unfortunately, a lot of people, you all you have to do is watch the news right now, because there's so many people running for the 2024 seats, and they say, if you elect me, I'll do this. That's totally wrong. If you elect them, they will try to do what you want me to do. Whoever elects me and puts me out there as the majority vote giver, I need to represent those people and their wishes. And I really just have disdain for politicians who say right up front, if you elect me, I'm going to do all these things, because it isn't reality. You even at a city council level or a school board level, there are at least 4 other people you have to collaborate with to get something done. You don't do anything by yourself. I don't care who you are. Even the president of the United States, he can do some things by himself, but for the most part, he has to find a way to get Congress to fund it and the Senate to agree with it. And people forget that.
Right. You have to build a consensus and,
Yes.
like you said, truly be a public servant. And that is a title that I think a lot of politicians have forgotten, just based on, your observations and some of my own observations as well in the political realm. But it's so refreshing to meet and to highlight those that really have a heart of service and are doing the right thing for their constituents, for their communities. And that's, I'm sure, one of the major reasons why you've been mayor for almost 20 years now. And so I'm just really excited to dive in and talk about, what's happening in Ontario today and the evolution, because when you talk about how Ontario was gang riddled in the early 80s, when you go there today, it is just so beautiful, so well taken care of in every way. A law enforcement presence everywhere, a very positive relationship with the community. I observed that at the Route 66, cruise and reunion, where there were, I think, tens of thousands of people there with their cruisers, and law enforcement everywhere. Everyone was having a great time. I didn't see any
Correct.
problems, and it's a complete transformation from what Ontario was known for, like you said, in the 80s. So let's jump in. We're going to jump in with Measure Q, Mayor. Let's talk about Measure Q, when the residents are going to vote on that and what that means for the community.
Well, Measure Q is actually over. They did vote on it a year and a half ago, and it was a solid victory. I used to run around and say Q is for you, and people would say, what does that mean? Well, it was a 1 cent sales tax increase. So in the past, if you went to dinner or you bought something, it would say 7.75 is the tax. We upped it to 8.75, and that extra penny came directly to us because the 7.75 is it's just spread out all over the state and the county and the federal and everything. So that 1 penny we were able to ask for that to come by the voters. The voters agreed to pay an extra penny in tax to the city of Ontario to do more things. And the reality is that 7.75 had been set in place many years ago. Let's just say 50 years ago, and nobody could live on today what you lived on 50 years ago. Plus, the state has, over time, removed the things that used to fund a city, and I could name them, but that would just be boring to your audience. The school tax, or the ERAF, and then there was the, for instance, the there was a redevelopment tax that we got in order to redevelop parts of our city. And they took that too. So those were big, huge bundles of money. And also the property taxes they are taken almost completely by the state. I think out of $180,000 property value, we only get like $160. So if somebody's house is in Ontario, we have a lot of generational owners whose house has not changed its value since 1978, because that's when Proposition 13 happened.
Right.
So we are living on taxes from 1978. Other newer cities are living on new taxes because this is, the homes are new and the buyers are new. So we're living in a city that set the standard of income to back in 1970, 78 for the most part. So we have to be creative in how we earn our money. We earn money now with sales tax. And so with the passage of Measure Q, we're able to do so many more things. It's already bringing us close to $100 million a year that we never had. So people are seeing their streets and their alleys and their sidewalks and their water mains and their sewer mains and all of the things of the infrastructure of the city that have been, we've been trying to catch up. We're able to start really catching up with those things for the people to live a better quality of life. Our parks, we're redoing our parks. We're instituting a sports complex in the south. We're doubling the size of the convention center. We're doubling the size of the arena. We're putting entertainment venues around them, so it'll be really nice. Our airport is doing great. We're beginning to really see an increase in the people flying out of Ontario. So there's so many great things that are going on in the city of Ontario. It's hard to catch it. It's like catching a tiger by the tail. Right. So often. But Measure Q was big in giving us the money to start the projects and programs that we needed to do here, because now we have the money to do it.
Absolutely. And I see here that it looks like $95 million in new local revenue is expected. And I'm curious, Mayor, what are the main revenue streams for the City of Ontario today?
Well, the main revenue streams are the taxes on fuel. So at the airport, of course, all that jet fuels, jets take a lot of fuel. Then there's the gas tax that are from the pumps themselves. And we have about a 65% visitor population in the city. So we have, at the gas pump, we have about a 65% of the people don't live here who buy gas and pay the tax on the gas tax. There's also the retail tax, and the Ontario Mills is a big tax generator. And then people want to complain about the warehouses, but they don't understand these warehouses are not the warehouses of the past. Not like the one I worked in when I got out of the Army, and it was dusty and stinky and dirty, and we carried a box from point A to point B. These places are sparkling clean. They're dust free. They're, because of the machinery and the robotics and the computers, they have to be. They're air conditioned. The one I worked in was hotter than all get out in the summer and freezing in the winter. And I had to just dress appropriately. Today, these are very modern and efficient warehouses, and they employ people who make a lot of money. I mean, we didn't have any computer people in the warehouse I worked in. We didn't have anybody who was, just a mechanic for the machines. We didn't have them. We had racks and me and my friends. So all of this stuff takes a higher tech individual to be employed, and they have great programs. They have great retirements. They have restaurants in the warehouses. They have workout machines. They even have, in some of them, they even have nap time. Nap time? Are you kidding me? They would have fired me if they. And so the warehouses actually, with their point of sales on the internet and stuff, they generate a lot of our taxes. So we are able to really capitalize on that whole thing of taxing to make the City of Ontario financially secure.
Right. And so talk again about that $1.2 billion in unfunded infrastructure and neighborhood improvement projects that residents of Ontario can see as a result of voting through Measure Q.
Well, that's collectively over time. The things that we're doing, I didn't mention bedroom taxes for the hotels and those types of things that as the convention center gets, as we double its size, then we get greater size in conventions, greater size in hotels and hotel use. So there's a lot of money coming there. But our real goal is to create a multifaceted city that has all of the amenities of a big city elsewhere. In fact, there are some groups who call Ontario the new Irvine and the new Los Angeles, because there was a time in Los Angeles, everything was gravitating to that. As things changed in Orange County began to populate, and everything gravitated to Irvine and Anaheim. And now, as the population continues to increase in Southern California, everything is gravitating towards Ontario. So we're going to have all of the things. It's going to cost us quite a bit of money. And even in the next 10 years, if you look at it, it's spending $100 million a year. That's $1 billion, but we're going to spend more than that because the Measure Q gives us the opportunity. As we continue to have more tax generating amenities, we have more money to invest back into the city to create more tax generating amenities. So the money just continues to be earned. We're letting our money earn us money, but at the same time, we're spending it for all the right reasons by widening roads and improving streets and improving infrastructure and providing what a lot of people don't understand, that 70% of a city, the city general fund goes to safety services, police and fire.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I absolutely love about Ontario is the balanced land use projects. And we're going to step into this Grand Park. Talk about the Grand Park that's situated in Ontario Ranch.
Well, we wanted to make a statement with the city of Ontario that we didn't just enlarge the parks that we have and scatter them throughout the city. Developers still have to put neighborhood parks in. They're usually real small and the kind of thing where everybody can gather around the swimming pool and have a barbecue or play a little minor touch or flag football, that kind of stuff. But the Great Park is 300 acres of contiguous park all the way from Archibald to Euclid, and then it will have contact with the incoming sports complex that will be between Vineyard and halfway to Archibald below Riverside Drive. So the sports complex will sort of encompass the golf course, which is the Whispering Lakes is getting renovated. The community center there will be Westwind will get put down. We'll move it to the south of Riverside Drive, and we're going to have a lot of things going on that will make it so that our sports complex, which is going to be a pretty good size sports complex with actually a semi-pro professional baseball field and all of the, once again, the surrounding entertainment amenities, so that it's not just when baseball's happening. There'll be a lot of things, including professional concerts on that field that will be right there below Riverside Drive, and that will be the center of the city at the time. So there's a lot going on there. And the Great Park will have this 300 acres of outdoor space that will include riding trails, biking trails, jogging trails, outdoor concerts, you name it. If you can think of what somebody would want to do in the great outdoors, it's going to be happening there, because we built that in to the overall city so that nobody can say, oh, all you wanted to do is build rooftops. Well, we have enough rooftops. We know we're going to max out at a population of around 300,000. We'll have the rooftops for them, but we'll also have the playground for everybody.
I love it. And that is just part of the visionary policy that you and your counterparts on City Council have been so diligent about implementing. Like I said, very balanced and proper land use projects, which is appealing to investors, to businesses, and to people that want to work, live, and play within, a reasonable radius of their home without the long commutes or fighting incredible traffic. I mean, why would you have to go anywhere else when you have an international airport down the street, all of your shopping amenities, everything set in one city? And like you said, with the population expected to grow to 300,000, it sounds like the perfect balance. But we're coming up on a break right now. So everybody listening, I'm Yvette Walker with ABC News and Talks, Southern California Business Report, here today with Mayor Paul Leon, visionary leader and catalyst for positive change in the vibrant city of Ontario, California, with an unwavering commitment to improving the quality of life for its residents, positioning Ontario at the forefront of economic growth and community development, and attracting businesses that are creating sustainable employment opportunities. When we return.
We are the Empire Strikers, the professional sports team of the Inland Empire. We are a fast-actioned and community-inspired pro indoor soccer team. Our mission is to inspire the Empire. Home games, community events, watch parties, and youth camps are all back. Professional indoor soccer is back. Join us and come watch the greatest show on turf at Toyota Arena or on Twitch. Visit www.theempirestrikers.com for more and any information.
Hi, I'm San Bernardino County Sheriff Shannon Dykes. If you're looking to start an exciting career in law enforcement and make a difference in your community, we are hiring dispatchers, nurses, deputies, laterals, and many more. For a complete list of our jobs and more information, visit sheriffsjobs.com.
Hi, I'm Dana Rademacher with MGR Property Management.
A lot of people wonder about the value that property management has for their property. Property management can include all property types, including residential, commercial, and HOA. It is valuable because property managers are experienced in what can happen at your property. We're aware of liabilities. We're able to do predictive and preventative maintenance. We know what is coming up with the changes in the weather, the seasons, how old certain aspects or different capital projects at your property are. We're able to best negotiate contract pricing, legalities with your tenants, and anything else that you may need to ensure that you're getting the full value of your property. If you're interested in speaking with the representative at MGR Property Management regarding your property management needs, you can visit our website at mgrrealestate.com, or you can call our number at area code 909-581-6600 to be connected with the representative.
The University of La Verne is rated first in California for alumni satisfaction. Learn more about accelerated programs offered online and on campus in La Verne, Irvine, Ontario, Burbank, or College of the Canyons. Visit go.laverne.edu. The University of La Verne. go.laverne.edu.
Cal State San Bernardino is home to the only School of Entrepreneurship in California. With globally ranked degree programs, you can start your journey today to become a successful entrepreneur. Learn more and connect at entre.csusb.edu.
Ontario International Airport is onto a better way to fly with over 65 daily non-stop flights to more than 20 major destinations and the easiest airport experience in Southern California. Visit flyonto.com/Ontario to learn more about Ontario International Airport today.
Welcome back, everyone. Yvette Walker with ABC News and Talks, Southern California Business Report, here with Mayor Paul Leon, visionary leader and catalyst for positive change in the vibrant city of Ontario, California, with an unwavering commitment to improving the quality of life for its residents, positioning Ontario at the forefront of economic growth and community development, and attracting businesses that are creating sustainable employment opportunities. Thank you again for being with us, Mayor.
It's my pleasure.
Beautiful. So prior to the break, we spoke about Measure Q and how the tax revenue was going to be directly reinvested into the community for infrastructure services and so on. We also went over the Great Park, which is over 340 acres, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Let's talk about public safety and emergency response in the city of Ontario.
Well, the public safety is, like I said, it's the largest part of our budget, over 70%, and we intend, as always, to bring the best public safety and service by the best men and women that we can hire and provide for the residents of the city of Ontario. So we're building new fire stations. We are even considering some police precincts outside the main police department. Or there's a little bit of an argument and a pushback on that, though, because back in the old days, it was important if a police officer arrested somebody or something, and rather than like in a big city like LA or New York, how are you going to get back to a single station? So they had substations all over town, precincts all over town. Today, a police officer, his car is as good as any of those substations because the computers in it, and they can book and write up and put a person in the back of the car and easily drive them, just drop them off and take off and go back to where they're from. But at the same time, for the sense of safety in a community, sometimes people need to see a brick and mortar place that they can say, well, that's where the police live, you know? And so
Right.
we're thinking in terms of maybe providing that. It's a high expense, though. It's been a great time having the police officers in their cars providing that sense of security. But there is a little bit of a clamoring to see a real police station nearby instead of having to believe that it's really far away. Because the center of Ontario has moved from basically Holt and Euclid. It is now Archibald and the 60 freeway. That's the center of town. Isn't that
Wow.
crazy?
That's moved very far south, and it just gives you a readjustment in your perspective of how big Ontario actually is.
Right. And we'll probably see the build out, I would say, in the next 10 to 15 years. There won't be any more areas to build in, like a lot of cities, you know, that are built out. Montclair is pretty much built out. So is Upland to a certain degree. It's built out. You have to capture more land by being aggressive and saying we want more land, but to what's called LAFCO. But the reality for Ontario is we're kind of at peak position for who we are and what we're going to be. And so we have a very good idea how to create, as you mentioned it earlier, that live, work, and play space. Where do we put the live? Where do we put the work? And where do we put the play? And those are the real questions. And the state, of course, throws a what we call a stick in the front spokes. If you think of what that means, we go through all of these problems of planning and setting the vision for how we want the city to scope out as far as population goes. And then they come up with this, well, anybody who has a plot of property that's big enough for a small home, that the home will fit, you can put a home there, let people live there. And that's really short-minded, or it's short-sighted thinking and small-minded, because we build, or we allow, and we zone properties to be built out at a certain population to be able to let people know, if you live here, you're not going to be overcrowded. But then the state comes in and says, we don't care about crowding. We don't care. You just let them live wherever they want to live. Well, that just throws a monkey wrench in the whole idea of planning and
Right.
and predicting where your populations are going to be. So how do we continue to wrestle with the state legislators who have no accountability? They don't really have accountability to the local people like I do. They run and nobody really knows what they do. Tell me what you might know because you're savvy on this. But the everyday person has no idea what is an assembly member, for instance. They think that a senator is the same senator as Dianne Feinstein or Alex Padilla. And they think that a state senator, that's who they are. They don't even understand that there's a state level of government, and there's a federal level of government. And our assembly is kind of equal to the federal level of Congress, but at the state level. And most people don't know two titles in public service in elections are supervisors and assembly members, and most people I meet have no idea who they are or what they do.
Right. And so when you talk about, public policy and the state putting the stick in the spokes of the front wheel of the bike, that harkens, the idea of RENA numbers, right? Development numbers, high density
Right.
numbers, and holding
Right.
back funding from the taxes that are generated by your city because you're not meeting those state mandates, which are, historically speaking, have not been designed to be applied to every unique city. It's been kind of a sweeping, broad stroke approach when the reality is it should be viewed with a more surgical precision because, as you mentioned earlier, not all cities have the capacity to grow. A lot of cities are at capacity for growth. So that's what I love about your policies and being able to overcome those challenges with Measure Q to continue having that revenue unobstructed by the state and continue to invest in those services and infrastructure, which again is one of the reasons why Ontario is a beacon of success for communities throughout not only Southern California, but California itself. Let's talk about continuum of care because I know you care about the community. You don't want to see unhoused people or people that are vulnerable or, food insecure. Please talk about the allocations you've made along those lines.
Well, we want to be able to care for our own residents. There's money out there, but what they do is they say, okay, if you take our money, you're going to have to take care of people in general. And so what in the city of Ontario, what we've done is we've begun to set aside money, our own money, set aside for our own people. I mean, I don't know how everybody feels about it. It's not a not in my backyard or NIMBY issue. It's that there's only so much space and only so much money. And if we have to receive money from outside the city, but then give up the space to people from outside the city, then we're really not solving we're not bringing about a solution for the people inside the city. We're just not. So, and then they don't even get first choice. So let's say we build a homeless shelter, or I don't like that word shelter. It just drums up ideas of a tarp strung out over the side of a building. Well, let's say we build a homeless facility. And it's really nice. And there's 100 beds, but we use outside money. And then they say, well, it's first come, first serve. Who we get to you first, who they get to us. And I can't say, but we built this so that we could house Ontario homeless people. And here's the thing about homeless that I think people kind of know, but they don't always put it in perspective. And I want to apologize to everybody that I sound stuffy and my eyes are almost closed because I'm not well. That's why we're doing this on Zoom. I'm not 100% well. I'm taking good meds, but that's about it. So the homeless situation is multifaceted. I tell people all the time, it's like looking at a kaleidoscope. Not only is it all fractured, it's different. Every time you make the turn, it's different with this person. But there are so many different ideas about the homeless person. There are those that we triage the homeless, and by that the police ask them questions, and we find out that some are either sometimes on the run, sometimes on probation, sometimes have warrants. Sometimes have critical issues with the law, and those people, if you catch them in this situation, you don't make them homeless, you put them in jail. And then there are other people who are trying to lower their profile with the community because they're alcoholics or drug addicts or whatever it is that you would have to go to an AA program for to recover. They don't want to recover and they don't want to be bothered. They just want to stay in their situation. And for the most part, many of those are not really what we would call homeless. A lot of the people that you see on the streets are not homeless. They have families and they have homes. They just don't want to be in there. And so those are they call themselves kind of outdoorsmen.
Mm.
When you encounter them and you say, well, you live over here with your family, but you don't go home. What's up with that? I'd rather be outdoors. I'm an outdoorsman. And so the real down and out stories, the ones where I have a real fast story of a woman who I met at Ronald McDonald House. Her son had cancer. Did I tell you this story before?
No, please
Her
share
son
it.
had cancer. They're from Ojai. Ojai. That's where I'm from. They're from Ontario. They had a home. The husband had a job. They had 3 children. Their 12-year-old came up with brain cancer. They went to Loma Linda, and they were living at Ronald McDonald House to be close to the son. In order to afford the hospital, they sold their house. Then they sold their van, and then they were totally dependent on Ronald McDonald House with the other 2 kids and the husband and the wife. The husband became despondent, and he committed suicide. And then the wife was told that they were going to have to leave Ronald McDonald House because Loma Linda had determined they couldn't help this young man anymore. He was just going to pass away. So she called me, and we put her into our transitional program where you start with intake, and then you move into an apartment, then you move into a condo, then you move into a townhome, then you move into a house. And it was a continuum of care all the while we're supporting you and making sure that you have a roof over your head and food and clothes and school. We put the mother through school. So she comes back maybe from the first time I met her and then got her into the intake program. She comes back about 7 years later to a city council meeting and says, I'm the lady that you answered the phone call. And my husband, took his own life. We lost our house. We lost our car. We got kicked out. You got us into the intake. My son passed away, but I was going to school. We went through the whole continuum of care. We progressed through all the way to a house. Now I have my degree in nursing, and I'm a nurse, and I make good money. And we're leaving the house to the next person. And but it had not been for all this help from the city of Ontario, I don't know where I'd be. And she was just very appreciative. Well, that kind of a program isn't allowed anymore by the federal government, even the state. The only thing we can do is take them in, and the backlog is that we can't move anybody out. We can't say we're going to educate you to get out. We can't say anything. It's called remain in place. Once they're in, they're in, and all of our money that we have has to go to keeping that family stable. And there's nothing to push them through the system to get their own house like this woman did when she became a nurse. So what we want to do is expand the program and make it so positive and so attractive that they'll want to progress through. We can't push them through. We want them to progress through. So we're going to be doing some really big things. We have some big property on where we plan on purchasing and turning into an intake, especially for veterans. We're going to make it a veteran intake, and they'll get first shot, and then we'll continue to triage the people who are really on the down and out, who need real help, who want real help, who are not running from the law, who are not trying to be outdoors people, but who really need to get out from a bad situation, and we will help them through, even with the laws of the land working against us to make it happen. So that's another one of the things that Measure Q allows us to have the extra money beyond our normal responsibilities to now help this underserved population. And we don't want to take outside money. Otherwise, we'll have to do it for everybody.
Right. Well, that makes sense. And I love that you're dedicated to providing a state-of-the-art facility with counselors, support, and career services, as well as mental health support, which is huge right now, which can lead into behavioral health issues. But having this program that allows folks to have stepping stones to progress into full-time home ownership from, like you said, a devastating diagnosis for your child that is just bankrupts you or makes you, sell everything for the treatment of your child. And quite frankly, I think it's what 60% of Americans are 2 paychecks away from ruin, basically, and that's a national statistic. So it's incredible that you have and your counterparts again have invested the effort to create a program that is really aimed at supporting and encouraging these families, these people that really want and need the necessary help. We can talk about redevelopment corridors and the West Valley Connector. We're coming in short. I think we're going to have to do a part 2, Mayor, because there's just so much happening in the city of Ontario. I don't think we're going to be able to cover it all in one session. So everybody listening, anticipate a part 2 because there's so much happening. It's very exciting. And as we know, Ontario is the beacon for success, a place where businesses want to go invest because of these type of policies that are working for their communities, that are doing what they're designed to do and actually being successful. So let's touch briefly on the redevelopment corridors and the West Valley Connector, Mayor.
Well, the West Valley Connector, for those who are unaware, is the dedicated bus route that will kind of circle around the west end of the valley and it'll, from Montclair to Ontario through the airport up to Ranch Cucamonga, down through Cucamonga into Upland, into Montclair, and just continue to make the loop, and so that will help with transportation. And along the way, there will be critical stops. Excuse me.
Bless you.
There'll be critical stops along the way that are, related to work or shopping centers. There'll be a stop at the Ontario Mills, so you can stop and shop, get back on. You end up right back. And the thing about it is, our real concern is what's called the first and final mile. So that we want to see these bus routes that are also in the system already, so they can connect people for that first and final mile. So when you get on the bus, we don't want you to have to walk a mile, and we don't want you to have to walk a mile when you get off the bus to anything, including your home. So we really the goal is to have somebody not walking more than a quarter mile before they can find public transit, and that's when it becomes actually successful. Right now, it's not so successful because you might have to walk a country mile to get to the bus stop, and then it lets you off, and you're nearer, but not really at where you need to go. So that's why, taxis and Uber and Lyft are so popular. But who can afford that all the time? So the bus system that West Valley Connector is going to make it the big loop and actually give us a lot of help to finalizing that first and final mile.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to cover the rest of the points, Mayor. I'm going to have you on, let's say, the third, possibly week of March. Everybody listening, mark your calendars. Roughly speaking, we're going to have the Mayor back on in March to give us a part 2 of all the exciting things happening in Ontario. And who knows, maybe we'll have more that happens between now and then that we can speak on as well.
And that'll be great. Maybe I'll shave by then.
Okay. Well, I hope you feel better, Mayor. Thank you so much again for your dedication. Even with the cold, the sniffles, you're championing through it and giving us the update. We really appreciate you.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on. It's been fun. Thank you, anybody who's watching. We are Ontario on the move. We always have been, and our intent is to build the best city in the region and continue to be the premier city, so that your pride level can rise as we develop and make this that jewel of the Inland Empire that we're always called.
Absolutely, and appropriate for the model colony, Mayor. Thank you. All right,
Thank you.
Everybody listening, here's an update on some community events. The Empire Strikers and their match against San Diego on International Night, Sunday, February 18th, with kickoff at 4 p.m. Call 909-457-0252 or visit empirestrikers.com for more information. Join San Antonio Regional Hospital for a life-saving presentation on heart attack at the Ontario City Library by Froylin Tuozo, Chest Pain Center Coordinator and Emergency Medical Services Liaison, who will guide you through the early signs and symptoms of a heart attack. Tuesday, February 20th, from 6 to 7 p.m. at the Ovid Family Community Library located at 215 East C Street, Ontario, California. Also, Fontana Chamber of Commerce is having a job fair event held on Tuesday, February 27th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at 16730 Arrow Avenue, Fontana, inviting businesses looking to recruit and future employees. Register now at www.fontanachamber.org or call Wendy Gish at 909-822-4433 or email jobs@fontanachamber.org. Don't forget to find us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Check us out on scbrtalk.com. Don't miss my interview with Danielle Hawley, Executive Director of the Fontana Chamber of Commerce. Danielle has been a Fontana girl for most of her life. She's a graduate of Fontana High School. In 2001, was crowned Miss Fontana and spent part of her 8-year teaching career in Fontana Unified School District. Next week, we will have Gregory Keith Hafif. He's a lawyer, a businessman, and philanthropist. Mr. Hafif is the managing attorney for the law offices of Herbert Hafif in Claremont, California, one of the most successful and nationally recognized trial law firms in the United States. He is one of California's leading civil trial lawyers and has produced numerous million-dollar verdicts, including the 10th largest verdict in the state of California in 1995, an antitrust matter in Victorville, California. That same year, his father, Herbert Hafif, produced the 4th largest verdict in the state of California. You do not want to miss it. We will see you all next week.
This has been the Southern California Business Report with Yvette Walker on KMET 1490 AM, FM 98.1, and ABC News Radio affiliate, a show dedicated to highlighting successful Southern California businesses and the people behind them. Remember to visit the podcast page on the KMET website.